Okay.
All right, inshallah, let's start.
All right, let's start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We at the Ahlul-Bayt Collective really appreciate your participation and support. Today, we're joined by Sasa Aakil. Sasa is a 17-year-old artist and writer from Silver Spring, Maryland. She works in clay, paint, ink, words, and recently music. She's a Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. She's a Scholastic Art and Writing Awards Gold and Silver National Medalist for Poetry, DC Youth Poet Finalist, and WBL Grand Slam Champion. She's been published in the Scholastic Best Teen Writing Anthology and Our Voices, Our Stories Anthology in 2018. And also, I Am the Night Sky by Muslim American Youth in 2019. She uses her art to talk about subjects that apply to Black and Muslim identities and to push for change in the world. So first, before we start off with the interview, we like to start with a spoken word performance by Sasa. So Sasa, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Hi everyone. So you just learned everything about me. But yeah, I'm Sasa. So this piece that I'm going to share is about well, it's an old piece. I've performed it in a lot of places, but it's about my relationship and how I feel about our country and its flag. And I kind of speak from the perspective of the flag, and I take it on as a persona, and to talk about how specifically for me it has done me wrong or it has been there for me. So here we go. It's called Flag because it's creativity. You know me. I stand in the spotlight. Center stage, never shy, I am proud pinnacle. Star spangled to mimic the night as if I were noble as she. I wave hello, goodbye, and good riddance, but never offer a hand to clasp in friendship. My friends are the hypocrites and the ones who forget whose blood dyed my stripes bold. I've watched thousands fight for me, die for me, fight over me, under me. As I wave a silent anthem above their heads, I am golden door, sealed with lock and key, symbol of the free, you know, the ones with blue eyes, white skin, and red blood. I am witness to that lynching, to that car crash, to that funeral, to that inauguration, to that battle in the name of freedom, but really just the prophet, the powerful. I am passive. I have done no wrong, simply stood where they put me, allowed them to craft for me a story of righteous contradiction. I posed for Georgia O'Keeffe and let them sing that song for me. Oh, say, can't you see the scene where they sewed me back together after the Confederacy ripped my colors into bold, crossed lines? I didn't mind. Never really mattered who stood for me, only that I stood. I pledge allegiance to myself, for myself, because no one matters but me, and I stand at the head of their movement. I stand for liberty and justice for few, and I rest on the coffins of the fallen ones. Because of nothing else, I can claim their bravery. I am the home of the brave, the ones who spoke up and were silenced. You don't even know their names. I am red, white, blue, and beautiful, star-spangled, striped, and fly, and I fly over this land as a symbol of democracy, hypocrisy, and undeserved pride. I am American flag, a symbol of what is and what is to come, and what was never what they declared me to be. I stand for the land of the free. Yeah. Also, shout out to Christine. She's the one who taught me how to print in the first place, and she's here. I'm really happy. Hey, Christine.
Thank you so much for that. That was, mashallah, that was amazing. Sasa, every time I listen, it's just so great. I love it. So before we begin with questions, I just wanted to say thank you, Sasa, for letting us at the collective interview you. This was a project that everyone at the collective was really excited for, and I'm just really happy that we can do this today. Also, just a side note for the audience, there will be a Q&A section after the interview. So if you do have questions, you guys can message Zara or Shania. Zara's waving right there. You can message them on Zoom that you have a question, and they'll unmute you when it's time, and then, or you can unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. Or if you're not comfortable with asking, just, message them the question, and then we can ask for you. Okay. So the first question we like to ask, Sasa, is what kind of artwork do you create?
All right, that's a very long answer. I was listed in my bio, I work with a lot of different mediums. I do pottery, and I paint, and I write, which I also consider part of the overarching like artistic umbrella.
Mhm.
I do hair, which I also consider part of that. I can't even remember. I play bass. I tried to do photography. It didn't work. I really just can't even remember everything. I print more
Okay.
recently, which is kind of like the biggest part of this project that I'm working on right now, the whole reason I'm here. So I print on clothing and also on paper. So I do clothes for myself as well as postcards and other things.
Yeah.
I draw. I'm not like great at it, but I also like to sit down with markers usually and paper, and I draw. And yeah, so it's very like complicated sort of to that question, because also like I branch out and do other things, because for me, one of the best things in the world is art, and so I like to learn a lot of different forms and try and bring them all into my like general artistic being. But yeah, that's that.
That's so cool. Mainly because like I love printing. I learned how to kind of like, I don't know the technical terms, but I used to like etch on, it was like kind of like a rubber pad, and then we like
Mm-hmm.
press it and screen print it. I remember taking a class and like really, really liking it. I
Yeah.
did try ceramics, but I was not good at it at all. So when did
Difficult.
you, yeah, it's cold. When did you kind of start creating artwork, or like when did you think like this was something that you know, all the different forms of art that you do, when was kind of did you start it, and who was your inspiration for that?
So that's another like really long answer. When
Uh-huh.
did I start doing art? I'd say I've always done art.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, I carried around this notebook. It was black, and I drew like in every kind of writing utensil I could get my hand on, and I would do these drawings, and they were horrible. But since then, I think I was maybe like 4 or 5. I've been drawing and I've been scribbling, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that was kind of how I was expressing myself then. And so as I've gotten older and it's evolved, I believe I started calling myself artist, using that term when I was like 9 or 10. And I decided that was something I wanted to be, because one, when I told, this is kind of like not a good reason to decide, but when I told the adults around me that I liked it and I wanted to be, I received a lot of encouragement. And so I was like, okay, I want to be an artist. I want to be what these people believe that I can be. And that was kind of, I didn't have any art role models until later in my life. So that was
Mhm.
kind of how I began, with the support of the people around me.
That's so cool. So who are like your top 3 artists? You said like currently,
Right.
who do you think like you inspired from, or like you really enjoy the artist?
So top 3 artists. This is my favorite part. My favorite question on the list. Bisa Butler, who actually was my mom's college roommate, so I call her auntie. I think she's
Oh,
amazing. She is a textile artist, so
wow.
she works in only fabric. She doesn't paint at all, and she has a bunch of different series, but she does life-size tapestries of usually Black people, or only strictly Black people, and they're intricate and they're amazing, and the fabrics she uses are insane. And so she's my favorite, top. And then there is Langston Hughes, who I always say is my favorite poet. He really inspires me, and always has. And I especially love the simplicity of his writing, and how his he makes it simple, but when you listen and when you read it again, it's actually really complicated. And then last but not least is Kadir Nelson. I work in acrylic, so he gives me hope that I can one day be as good a painter as him. And acrylic, people say acrylic paint isn't good, but I love it, and he is the most amazing acrylic painter I've ever had the pleasure of seeing. So that's really cool for me. Those are my top 3.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. I also like really like acrylic painting. I'm not the greatest artist, so I try. I try my best. No, you're literally so good. Oh my God. Okay, so about your work, like how has that changed over time? So when did you kind of specifically start focusing on subjects you explore now, like racial injustice, for example?
So it's kind of, I'm going to answer that question in 2 parts, because it's kind of
That's fine.
2 different things for me.
Hmm.
But so how has my art changed? I like to think it's gotten better.
Yeah.
I started off very much untaught, unpracticed, kind of just like scribbling and doing what I could with what I'd seen, and also looking for other people's artwork and mimicking that. And so I like to think I've found my own kind of style. I'm still working on it, but I think I've found my own kind of look, and also I've learned how to do it better. So it's been a long, long journey for a lot of these arts. For a long time, I felt as if my art wasn't up to par with other people around me. And so that's another big change. I've been able to claim like what I've created and feel proud of it with the help of people like Christine. And yeah. And so when did I start focusing on subjects I talk about now is always. I think it's actually very privileged not to have to think about things like racial justice, racial injustice. And so ever since I noticed it was a thing, basically ever since I was old enough to notice anything, I felt a lot of discomfort and anger about it. And so what I did was I turned to my notebook and I turned to my pen or I turned to my paints and I tried to get that out somehow, which is kind of the way the project came to be in the first place, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, so I got into these because I felt like unhappiness and discomfort within myself. And I knew I had to do something with that. And what I've always turned to my whole life is to art to get out any uncomfortable feelings I have. So that's how that became a thing.
That's really cool. I really like that answer. That's probably my favorite one. So what kind of motivates you as an artist to continue this work? And like, how do you come up with the ideas, or like, what's your process for these?
All right. Are you asking postcards in general or everything? Everything.
You can be as broad as you want.
All right. So what motivates me is just the general desire to create. I think that kind of thing is inborn. Anyone can learn how to do art, but not everyone feels the desire to do art the same way. But I definitely have always had a strong push to create things, even when it's just like, I don't know, picking up like a piece of dirt and shaping it in my hand, kind of like pottery. I always like to make things wherever I go and whatever I'm doing. So that's mainly what drives me. Also, what drives these projects and it inspires these projects is usually generally something I'm feeling within myself, whether it's discomfort or whether it's joy. And I want to express it and or share it and or make a difference about it. And so the project in Manuel's Lynched yesterday came about because of that desire to express something that I felt with.